Hello and welcome back to ADK Aquatics, and today we are looking at the question, what is the best tank size for beginners? There seems to be a common idea that beginners should have smaller aquariums of 5 to 10 gallons, for example. And when I did a poll on petscourt.com, which you should definitely join, 23% of people said that 5 to 10 gallon tanks are the best, 38% of people said that 10 to 20 gallon tanks are the best, 19% said that 20 to 29 gallon tanks are the best, 15% said 29 to 40 gallon, and only 4% of people said that 40 to 55 gallon tanks are the best. This means that 61% of people said that quote-unquote nano tanks, or what are usually considered as nano tanks, are the best for beginners. With all that being said, I'm going to challenge this idea in my video today. Before we get into the real content of today's video, I'd like to clarify what I mean by beginner aquarist. I mean someone who has not kept fish before and are buying aquarium fish for the first time, or an aquarium for the first time. This is not the end-all be-all definition of a beginner aquarist for my channel, but it is what I am using today. What tank size a beginner should start with is an interesting topic for discussion, with many different factors, including cost, space, stocking choices, maintenance, water parameters, water stability, and more. In my humble opinion, I think that the best tank size for a beginner is 29 to 40 gallons, and maybe 40 to 55 gallons. I am personally of the mindset that bigger is almost always better in this hobby, and tank size is no exception. I find that many people want to suggest small tanks to beginners as they are cheaper, easier to do maintenance on, and are less overwhelming. I think all these benefits are true to some extent, but do not outweigh the benefits of having a bigger tank. The first benefit of having a larger tank is more stocking options. If you have a 29 to 40 gallon tank, for example, then you can start looking at more diverse stocking options. But if you have a 5 to 10 gallon tank, there are only so many things you can put in there. But with larger tanks, there are countless different fish you can choose. And once you start getting into the larger tank range, you can start getting into African cichlids and some other larger fish that aren't available to the nano tanks. This allows beginner aquarists much more freedom and creativity when choosing their stocking options, and it allows them to have a lot more fun in the hobby. My next reason is water stability. When you give a beginner aquarist a small tank like a 5 to 10 gallon, it's almost as if you are setting them up for failure, or at least greatly increasing their chance of failure. This is because in a smaller tank, it is far easier for water to get contaminated by ammonia, nitrates, or any other outside source of contaminants that can get into aquariums. Let me use this example. When you clean a tank and forget to wash your hands before putting them in the tank, or forget to put on gloves or whatever, you can release some pollutants into the water. In a larger tank, this might not be a big deal, and your fish may not be affected at all, but in a 5 to 10 gallon tank, all your fish may die. This could make a beginner aquarist very discouraged and leave the hobby. My third reason is that larger tanks are more interesting. When I say larger tanks are more interesting, I mean you can do more interesting things with them. For example, your stocking options for a 5 gallon tank are very limited. I can think of just around 5 things, maybe at max, that could go in a 5 gallon tank. But there are probably hundreds of different stocking combinations for a 29 to 40 gallon tank. This lack of choice and creative freedom may cause beginning aquarists to get bored and quit the hobby. Another lack of freedom that you have with smaller tanks is with scaping. I've seen people pull off some pretty mind-blowing scapes with the smallest of tanks, but it is a lot harder to do when you have smaller tanks, and there are a lot smaller selection of plants and hardscape that you can use when the tank size is limited. If you get a larger tank, it'll allow you more space to do what you want with your scape, and you can get larger plants. Finally, bigger tanks just last longer. They last longer physically, as I'm pretty sure all Aqueon tanks 55 gallons and up are guaranteed for life, while smaller tanks like 2.5 to 5 gallons or something like that are only guaranteed for around 5 months. This can be a big advantage because obviously tanks leaking or bursting is no fun, and a tank bursting and all its inhabitants dying may be enough to discourage someone from continuing in their hobby. Those are all my arguments for why larger tanks are better for beginners. Comment down below what you think the best tank size is and why, and comment if I changed your mind at all with my argument. As always, thanks for watching and goodbye.